Welcome to the workshop. Today I want to talk about bending jigs. Simple little tools, come in loads of shapes and sizes. Usually just make them yourself, it's much easier and cheaper than buying something from the shop. But I felt there was a bit of a limitation on the way that I'd seen it done before, so kind of came up with a way that is much easier, much more flexible, and doesn't lock you into one particular type of bend for any particular job. So this is what a bending jig looks like usually. So this one's obviously not put together, but it's usually something like this. You've got a hardy, wrong size hardy obviously, with a plate welded to it, and you slide that into the hardy, and then you'll have a couple of bars welded onto that. Doesn't need to be this large obviously, but once you've welded two bits onto the same plate, that's the jig you've got. However, I thought there was a better way. And so what I thought is, what if you had a bunch of different angle irons with different sized bar on them or tube, and then these are flexible now. You can slot them in to your vise, crank it up, and now you've got a slot for, let's go this way for instance, slot for thin bar. So you just bring them closer together for a nice piece of thin bar. And then if you've got some fat bar, that won't fit, so you just take them a bit further apart. So it's almost infinitely scalable, and when you need something else, it's ridiculously easy to put together. So I'll just show you how I do it. So I don't have a welding table or anything like that, so what I've found works really well for me is I've got this large piece of angle iron, and this acts as my bench, basically. Crank that on. Then I'll make a big one for this. This is all pretty rusty, so I'm going to have to clean all this up, so let's go do that. So I'm not going to be accurate for this, but I don't want it this tall, so I'm just going to cut some of this off. Give it roughly that. Here's a little bit of a hack when you're cutting some tube, some large tube. Stick some tape on it, make sure it's square to the tube itself, and then you've got a perfect line to follow for the cut. So you don't have to worry about measuring, and then drawing around that. Perfect, easy to use. So easy to follow that blue tape, it's awesome. Doesn't need to be a beautiful job, it's just rough, just making sure that the steel is exposed. And the same with this. Making sure we got enough steel showing. So that's all we need. We really don't need anything more than that. It's just as long as steel is touching steel, we're good. Okay, so now it's time to weld it. So all I do is I get these two pieces on my little jig here. Make sure I hold it down with a clamp. And then it's time to weld. Get our safety gear on. Now I connect my electrode, whatever you might call it, onto the piece of steel. That closes the circuit when you're about to start welding. Then you've got to do a spot weld on either side. That's looking pretty good. And now we'll do the weld all the way around. Now please don't tell me how bad my welding is, I do know. It is one of my worst skills, even though I've been doing it for a fair amount of time, just on little projects. I've just never put any time or effort into really learning it. But at the same time, even though it's ugly, it is more than adequate for this job. So now you can see, it's still a little hot, but you can see now that we can mix and match jigs, and we can bend larger pieces, etc. One thing I did unfortunately do wrong on this one, I like to make sure that the bar is towards the back of the angle iron. This one I left a gap, so that's the closest we can do. So with this one, Not ideal for really thin pieces, but that's fine. I'll do another one later, which is closer to the edge. Then you can get really fine pieces in there. If you want to do a long bend with a much finer piece than this, then you'll be able to do that. But with this one, it's just, that's how it's going to be. But at the same time, whew, that's hot. But at the same time, we can open that up. Or if I want to switch them out and do two different types, it's just a much better version of the same kind of jig, much more scalable, and you can do whatever you want with all these different types of radiuses. Now some of you might be thinking, I've seen that before, and you would be right. When I first came up with the idea, I just was here and I was doing things, realised this could be a good way to do it. As I was researching for this video, however, I've seen people actually do this. So looks like it is a good idea, because if an idea comes up in more than one place, then it's probably something handy. So no, I didn't invent it. In my little world, I invented it. But if you got some comments saying that it's already been invented, you're right, it has. Anyway, it's a fantastic way to do bending jigs. Saves a lot of space. These things are small and easy to store, whereas the larger jigs are just kind of harder. They got to fit in the hardy hole. It's just harder to store. So I really like these. Anyway, I hope you got something out of it. If you've stuck around this long, I'd really love a like and a subscribe and some comments. And I hope you guys have a really good day. I'll see you on the next one.